Alright, screw it. We're going straight into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Kencast. I think we're on episode 12, and I have no clue if we're at what episode we're actually on. I had to check again. It's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a long while. When was the last time Sorry, I'm moving closer to the mic here. When was the last time I posted a Kencast episode? Now, I'm pulling up the channel right now. Totally professional. Like I know what I'm doing. Let's see. The last one I posted was a year ago, episode 10. I feel like I posted episode 11, no? I guess not. Anyway, here we are. We'll call it 12. And we'll completely ignore the fact that 11 doesn't exist. You might be wondering, hey Kenny, why the heck are you doing a Kencast episode? Why are you doing a Kencast episode, right? And I'm here like, I don't really know. Actually, I do know. So, one of my friends I spoke to a while ago, she was having trouble sleeping, and so she remembered that I had a podcast, and she put it on, and she was like, oh yeah, I use this to fall asleep. And lo and behold, sorry for the phone charge, lo and behold, she did. And it sort of reminded me why, again, I was making this series. And I forget that actually was quite a bit of fun. The problem is, of course, finding 30 minutes uninterrupted in a day to just kind of talk and to, be able to talk for 30 minutes, right? It wasn't necessarily difficult. I'm just like a really lazy person. Nonetheless, my gosh, a lot of things has happened in a year, right? The episode 10 was a year ago. Let's see the exact date it was posted. June 30th, 2019. What happened since then? Well, a lot, actually. Well, I suppose they know then by now that I'm in college. Still going to UCD. Having a good time. Currently, I'm not actually going onto campus because the coof is scary. I don't even know if I talked about COVID-19 in the previous podcast, but yeah, been pretty much at home since then. Currently doing pretty well in our second semester of our second year. I speak like not a lot has happened, but like, oh my gosh, so much has happened in like a year, right? I mean, there's so much that's happened. There's a YouTuber I watch, he goes on these rants every single day, and he goes on for like a few hours every single day. And then there's me, it's like, oh yeah, it's been a year for me to think about new stories and new experiences and that kind of stuff, and I'm here like, meh, I got nothing. I got nothing. I'm sort of running my head like I have no clue, right? And I apologize for this episode. I have changed how the mic works. I used to record the previous Kencasts using a specific pair of headphones. This was a Turtle Beach gaming headset that my brother had. The mic is good. I'm still using the mic, right? I've just kind of I don't like putting on the headphones themselves. I have, I suppose, a thin head or something, or maybe my head's too big and therefore every headphone clamps harder on it. But I for the life of me cannot wear headphones at all. I just cannot wear the headphones. Something about the fact that it just squeezes on my head and it becomes very uncomfortable after even less than an hour. It's just I don't know, I couldn't wear these headphones. And so whenever I did the Kencast, they would clamp around my head and it would be very uncomfortable. So I've changed it up. Since about a month ago, I bought a new pair of headphones, right? I actually watched another YouTube channel for this because I spend way too much time on YouTube now, called the Neo 99s. It's a headset, or it's a headphone by the company Meze. It's like this, I want to say they're Austrian? I think they're Austrian. I want to say these headphones are from Austria. At least that's where when I was tracking the order, the factory was in Austria, I think anyway. But these are some unbelievably comfortable headphones, and they looked like they cost like $1,000. No, they costed 200, which was still crazy expensive. But I thought, hey, if I'm gonna get a pair of headphones that would last me, right? Apparently, going into audiophile stuff, headphones can last for a crazy long time. Like, I think the YouTube channel I watched, his name is Dank Pods. It feels weird to shout that. I mean, I'm just a YouTube channel talking about random stuff, right? But he recommended these headphones because they were really, really soft, they stay in your head, and they don't hurt as much. They clamp really, really lightly, so you could wear them for supposedly a really long time. There was a purpose. The dude wanted to be able to go onto like an airplane trip or like, let's say a large travel trip or whatever. I say travel trip, but it's probably just like 8 hours or I guess it's like 18 hours of flight over the Pacific. And it's like, yeah, I'll just slap on these headphones for like a few hours and forget about the world. And I'm like, with my wide head, I suppose that'd be really nice. So I got it. They sound lovely, right? And despite being one of the most comfortable headphones I've ever used, being only one of like 3, right? They still hurt my head after about an hour and a half, that's totally fine for the length of a Kencast episode. These things barely go past 30 minutes anyway. So, what I've done is that these headphones, I slap on my dirty face, right? But there's a problem. They do have a built-in mic, but the mic is kind of garbage. It's kind of like how when you speak into a like Apple headphone mic, and the Apple headphone mic picks it up. It picks up your voice, and over a phone call, you can understand what the person is saying. But, if you ever try to relay any important information in a relatively, what's the word I'm looking for? Complex way, people can often ask, sorry, what did you say? And so these headphones are just like that. And they're located beneath my voice, or beneath my mouth, so when I speak into it, it doesn't pick it up, and it's very distant, it's staticky and all that. So I'm like, okay, I have to use the old headphones, but I can't just wear 2 headphones. I look like an idiot. I already do. Wearing 2 headphones and speaking into one and listening to the other is even more idiotic, right? So I was like, what if we pretend to make a mic setup? I'm not gonna buy a mic. I'm still not working. I can't afford it, despite the fact that I'm dunking money into Genshin. But we'll talk about Genshin later. We can catch up to what I'm doing in my free time later. So what I did is I grabbed the mic, I grabbed the headset, I slapped it down on the table that I now have to do my work on. I'll explain the table later as well. But I slapped it on the table, and I turned the mic on the headset to face me. And now I have this jank, weird headphone setup where I'm wearing headphones, I'm speaking to a headset, and I can see the recording software, which is just a voice recorder in my computer. And here we are. After testing it, I think this distance is okay. I'm almost certain I sound a little distant, but listening to my previous Kencasts, I think I was a little too close for my personal liking. I felt like I was kind of in your ear, but now I feel like I'm 5 feet away. So I can't really lean back in my chair, or else it sounds even further away. And if I walk up, or if I put my face closer, then it sounds, again, a little too close. And admittedly, I'm certain that the people listening to this may not be listening on headphones. They might just be putting it next to their bed or on their, or in the background, right? In that case, it doesn't necessarily matter. The sound difference isn't that big. At least I don't think so. I've been trying to get into that kind of music and that kind of sound stage and all that kind of stuff, right? But I hope this checks out. And now that I spent 9.5 minutes about how I set up this jank, just complete, the setup, right? Let's get into a few things. What has happened in this time? In this year and a half that has gone by? hold on, June 30th, 2019. Oh my lord, that's almost 2 years ago, actually. Wait, that was before I even started college. What? Oh my gosh. So a lot of people, so the people who are listening to this probably don't even know what I've been doing. Oh my gosh. It's February 2021, closing in on March. Huh. Well, regardless, let's go through it. The first semester of college was pretty fun. We'll just jump right into it. I'll get to the table and the... Oh, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh no, I promised to talk about another subject, but I forgot about it. No. Okay. You know what? Forget that happened. I'll think about it. Maybe I'll think about it when I'm talking, right? Anyway. Ever since the coof hit, right? That hit right about, I would say, March of 2020, right? That's when school started closing down. People were like, oh my gosh, it's going across the country. And everyone went into I dropped my pencil. Everyone went into a lockdown, right? At that point, I was halfway through second semester of my first year of college, right? At that point, I was taking quite a few in-person classes, and are all in-person classes, and they had to sort of cancel halfway through, be like, hey, go home and we'll try this out, right? So that began my I guess online learning journey, we'll say that. I have optimized my online journey, or my online learning through the year and a half I've spent outside of campus, right? And also, of course, life in general, but who hasn't, right? If you haven't, please, I ask that you please don't go outside or travel. You know, I can get like traveling through car to like the mountains or something where there's literally nobody. But anyway, the first time I started doing in-person classes, I did work where I played games, right? And those of you who are studying, who are doing that kind of stuff, right, who are in the same position I am, have probably heard of the idea that you should separate your workspace from like your recreational space, from your eating space, sleeping space, so on, right? If you don't know, I'll give the general gist. If you work at a desk, right, and you eat on that desk and you sleep, God forbid, sleep on that desk, right, or you play games on that desk and all that, then your mind has a hard time switching between those particular subjects, right? An example would be if you sleep in you're supposed to sleep in your bed, at least I hope you are, right? And if you pull out your phone or you play games on your bed, that can sort of trick your mind into believing that when you go to bed, that, oh, I can play games, and so you don't get a good night's rest. I did not follow that philosophy my first semester away from school. So, the classes weren't very difficult. They were more like high school classes, and barely even at the AP level, which was really nice. It was very nice. So, when I did it, I did all of my work, everything, games and work, at the same table. That was not a good idea. It worked for a while because it's new and your brain is sort of paying attention, right? But give it like a week and you're already playing games at the same spot, and it just nothing checks out, right? Nothing works out. I ended up finishing that semester doing pretty well because the classes I took were not relatively difficult, especially compared to the classes that I'm taking currently, right? Then came the summer. I was here and I thought to myself, hey, Kenny, I know for a fact you are one lazy MF, right? And I know that if I give you 2 months, bordering 3 months to yourself in the summer, you will get absolutely nothing done. And I'm like, Kenny, you're absolutely right. What should we do? Let's take summer classes. So I spoke to my professors, having no idea how hard a summer class would be. And I asked my advisor, hey, Miriam. I probably shouldn't have said that, but you can probably search up her name. Miriam, I want to take some summer classes. And she's like, oh, that's very cognizant of you, Kenny. I'm almost certainly using that word incorrectly. I actually think I am using that word incorrectly. Forethinking? Is that even a word? Future, thinking of the futuring, right? Anyway, right? Sure, we'll think of some classes for you. You have any classes in mind? And I'm like, I have no clue. I want to take an easy class and a hard class, is what I said in my head. But because I was already in this phone call with my advisor, I was flustered. I didn't quite know what to say. I'm like, no, I don't know what classes I want to take. What would you recommend? And she, spends her time scrolling through a little. She's like, okay, what if you took statics and thermodynamics? Excuse me. And me, being the naive person I was, I had no clue what statics or thermodynamics was. For those of you who are not in engineering, specifically mechanical engineering, I'll explain. Statics is essentially physics, right? Physics, but in this case, everything is a rigid body. So you don't worry about objects bending, sort of moving objects. That's why it's called statics. Objects are in motion, or objects are experiencing, forces and momentums and velocities and all that kind of stuff. But you're looking at the object at one instance of time. Anyway, regardless, statics is one of the most difficult classes in the mechanical engineering pathway. I did not know this. I was an idiot and thus did not do my research for this. It wasn't until I had already signed up for the class that I had talked to Ryan Tran, another friend that I've been keeping in touch with this whole time, that he said, what the heck are you doing? You're taking statics over the summer? And I'm like, yes, I am. Is there a problem? And he's like, dude, do you know I haven't taken statics yet? And I'm ahead of you by like a semester, and I'm saving that for later because it's supposed to be so hard. And my heart kind of dropped. But I was relatively confident in my ability to perform because, well, first year went pretty well. So I thought, hey, how hard could it be, right? Now, I must give some, forewarning? Context? Anyway, sure. It's not as difficult as I think health majors and O-chemistry. As far as I know, O-chem is a weed out class by the definition of I think 90% of people fail in the first exam, which is horrifying. This wasn't that class. This class was more along the lines of 50%, maybe 30 or 40, right? Failing by the first exam. So yeah, I wouldn't consider this class a weed out class, but its difficulty should not be underestimated. Pair that alongside the fact that this was a summer class. In other words, I was doing this whole class in 7 weeks. I was doing what would have been a 14-week class in half the time. And not only that, it was a difficult class. And so I was not prepared for that. Now, I did have a few colleagues I could rely on. In this case, I must shout out my good friend Brian Rusev. That man carried me through that class. Thermodynamics was relatively easy because as an online class, we had open notes. And so as long as I wrote everything down, spent 30 minutes a day reviewing it at most, right? Then it's I got away pretty easily by going on the exams and being looking through my homework. Oh, there it is. That checks out. Or not the exams. The quizzes. The exams I don't think were open, no. Were they? I don't remember. I remember doing the quizzes and having my notebook open. but I'm not sure about the exam. I don't think anyway, I don't remember that because that entire summer was just, it was completely overshadowed by the sheer difficulty of statics. Fundamentally, it wasn't hard at all. Fundamentally, it wasn't that hard, right? But it was it was such a fast class. I did not have a professor, okay? I did not have a professor, something I was clearly not used to. And the TA was useless. Just saying. Just saying. She'll never watch this video, so that's fine. Or he, or they. I don't remember who was in that class. We didn't hold any classes. It was a summer class, and thus, I guess they didn't have time to schedule Zoom meetings. So I had to, for the first time, condition myself to study 3 to 4 hours a day just to pass the class. I would, after dinner at 7, right? I would just go upstairs immediately into my room, right? I set up this I grabbed a wooden chair. I put my laptop on my bed, or I would just stand up. I'd grab my laptop or my phone, or whatever one had the book at that time, and just go to town. I'd read the whole chapter. I'd take notes, right? And I'd do the homework. And every single day I had work, right? So every single time for that class, I did not get the homework finished. I suppose I had lacked the basic understanding of that class, right? The prerequisites. The worst feeling is when you go into a class and you think you're prepared, and then the first session assumes you know something and you don't know it. That was the worst feeling. That class was so difficult. I think my parents were scared because I was going insane. I feel bad for my parents because that class looked like it killed me. That's what that class looked like. That class actually probably was the closest thing to defeating me as a student, right? And so this year I am very careful about picking my classes. I think if I were to pick to do some core classes, I think it could have gone a lot easier, because those classes are mainly the work you put in, not necessarily the difficulty of the work, but nonetheless. In that time, my parents were trying to help me out a lot. God bless their hearts. They are I cannot stress how much I love my parents, right? In all this, we have grown closer, which is wonderful. Me and my dad, for the first time, I think I can call him a friend. And that's really strange when you can call your parents your friend. It's a surreal feeling, but nonetheless, moving on. They got me this little fold-out table, right? And so I used this weird fold-out table for a while. And it was actually pretty good. It was at the good height where I could still type. I had enough space to sort of do my work. And that was what I did for the majority of, or the end of the summer up until essentially the beginning of the beginning of this year. At the beginning of this year, my parents got me a bigger table. We went out to, I think it was IKEA. No, this is not IKEA. This is Costco. This was on sale at Costco. I remember. Never mind. So they got me a big quote unquote standing table at Costco, right? For a big deal off. And I was like, first, I'm a person who is relatively content with a lack of things. So I was totally fine using this 3-foot high table and my wooden chair that, to put it into perspective, my brother sat on it and it broke. And I'm not that much lighter than my brother. So if I, crossed my fingers, sat on it a little more tiredly and leaned back, I would have snapped the thing in two. But that didn't happen, luckily. My parents are like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? You're going to work in this for maybe another 2 years, regardless of whether or not you go on campus or not. And with that, I thought, okay, well, of course, that makes sense. That definitely... You bring up a good point. So we got a big standing table. You might be wondering, Kenny, do you use it as a standing table? And of course, I answer, of course not. I grab a chair, I put it to the lowest setting, and I sit on it. And then I forget the fact that it's a standing table, just to flex on standing table users, right? I suppose. Anyway. Yeah, so that's where I'm recording. Oh my gosh, where was I going with this? I remember I was supposed to talk about the table. Yeah, anyway, I actually have a table now. It is as wide as a barn door, and that's an expression. I don't think it's actually nearly as wide as a barn door. But it gives me a lot of space. I can put books, headphones on the left, computer in the middle. Haven't drank coffee in a while, but I suppose coffee on the right, phone, that kind of stuff. To put it in perspective, this table actually has a feature to have wireless charging. I don't use that because I still use an iPhone 6, but but it's there. Whenever I ultimately decide to, I guess, get a better phone. When was the iPhone 6 released? Like 2014? I don't know. But yeah. There it is. I don't want to end this episode too early because actually a few closing remarks I want to make, right? To those who are watching this, I hope things are going well. I know that things are quite tumultuous in the world and potentially at home. I know that as a student, this is one of the most difficult things I've ever done because I'm losing a lot of motivation. I'm having, there are some nights where I'm having doubts about whether or not this is the particular career I want to get into, And oftentimes spending a lot of time in one spot for people who tend to go outside can be somewhat depressing, right? As a gamer, as a person who spent most of their time content with very little, I don't have a big problem with this. I've always been able to talk to friends through Discord calls, which is essentially online calls, right? Play games with them. I'm actually doing a tournament at my school for Valorant, a shooting game, to raise money for people in Vietnam. Before you commend me, first, I'm doing very little. To put it into context, I'm playing a game. I'm not really going out and raising money. It's just for awareness, that kind of thing, right? Nonetheless, I think it's my duty to do that, regardless, right? I hope you're all doing okay. I hope life is treating you fairly, right? I have felt somewhat bad for not being able to keep this up. I won't make any promises because I realize that now that I can't make anything. I can't make any promises about another episode. But whenever someone reaches out to ask or anything like that, I'll make another one. This is always fun. It's surprising how easily I can sort of rant for 30 minutes. Always. I'll keep going back to that. And the more I do it, I think the better I'll be able to talk about things that have actually happened. I apologize because I know for a fact at the beginning of this, I said I promised I was going to talk about something else. I didn't. Meh. This is just a flow of the knowledge. But anyway. Yeah, I guess we'll stop with that then. Hope you guys are doing alright. Hope life's treating you well. And I hope to see you guys later. Peace.